Welcome to Hope Rising. My name is Kimberly Jones, and I serve as the director of the Center for Justice and Reconciliation at Point Loma Nazarene University. While we're disappointed that we can't be in person this year, we're thrilled that this virtual event gives us the opportunity to gather friends from around the country. Thank you for joining us. As we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that today, June 19, is also celebrated as Juneteenth, a commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, the news of their freedom finally reached slaves in Texas. So today we honor that moment and also acknowledge that there is still much work to do in our country, community, and individually so that every person can live and thrive in freedom. It's also important for us to acknowledge the land on which the university sits, land that reflects our history, including the beautiful story that Point Loma has woven as we shape and send students. But it's also important to name that the university sits on unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. Kumeyaay people still live and thrive in this region, and one way we strive to acknowledge them is to listen to the voices of Indigenous survivors and increase support of anti-trafficking efforts directed towards Indigenous people. As we look back on the past year, no one can ignore the dramatic impact the pandemic has had on all of our lives. At the Center for Justice and Reconciliation, we don't do the work because we are passionate about issues of justice. We do the work because we are passionate about the people who are impacted by injustice. And the injustices in our world are more clear now than ever. In Isaiah 61, the prophet prophetically speaks of the coming Christ when he says, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor." We lean into this call and to the belief that this scripture was fulfilled through Christ, and that we are to be the hands and feet of Jesus in our world. Our work at the center is centered squarely on this. How are we to be the hands and feet of Christ in our community? Every survivor we support, every moment we pour into our students' lives, every group we lead, every event we host, every time we advocate, we strive for it to always be through the lens that every person uniquely reflects the image of God. Each day we see the sun rise and set, and in the midst of hardship, it brings us hope. Take a moment now to peek out to see the sunset where you are, and I'd like to ask you, what gives you hope?
On behalf of the university, I'm pleased to welcome you to Hope Rising. Thank you for your commitment to the Center for Justice and Reconciliation. And for those of you who are new to our work, we especially welcome you this evening. Although we are not gathering in person this year, we are thankful to be together in this online space for our annual event highlighting the anti-trafficking efforts in the San Diego region. Every year at Hope Rising, we celebrate heroes in our community who pour their talents and hearts into ending human trafficking. Together, we imagine a world where no person is exploited, but we know it is going to take all of us working together to make this happen. I'm proud that the university stepped up many years ago to offer the first college scholarship for survivors of human trafficking. And together with other community partners, PLNU continues to lead the way in prevention efforts to keep human traffickers away from our children. This evening, as you hear from the team at the center, and as you meet the Hope Rising awardees and learn more about our latest efforts, I hope that you will see the evidence of what we can do together when we all work together to make our community a better place for every person. Your support makes it possible for us to continue to do this important work. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Beth Chamberlain, and this is
Scott Chamberlain.
And we are so just honored to be the honorary co-chairs of the CGR event this evening. And I'm an alum of Point Loma. I'm also an employee. I'm a faculty member at Point Loma. And I'm just so proud of the work that CGR does. I feel like that the Center for Justice and Reconciliation extends the what it means to be a Christian in this current context, and especially in addressing the issues of human trafficking and human sex trafficking. So we're glad that you're here tonight, and we look forward to a really special event.
You know, I'm just amazed in scripture that all the way back in Isaiah 1:17, it says very specifically, seek justice, encourage the oppressed, and it says defend the cause of the fatherless and plead the case of the widow. And what amazing scripture that really points to the work that Point Loma is doing through the Center of Justice and Reconciliation to address human trafficking and oppression in every sort of way in our world and in San Diego at the border. And if you want to know more about human trafficking, please visit churchesagainsttrafficking.com. And we are just so glad that you are here to support us this evening. Have a great night.
At the CJR, we stand in solidarity with the oppressed and work to bring lasting change to our community. This has been a difficult year, but it has also brought beautiful moments when we saw the impact we can have when we join hands and work together toward a common goal. We're excited to share with you just a few of the highlights of this transformative year at the Center for Justice and Reconciliation.
Over the next 6 months, we are welcoming 4 new survivor scholars under the Beauty for Ashes Scholarship. Working with more than 60 survivors this past year, we've held multiple small groups to support survivors as they plan for their future, as well as working one-on-one with survivors to build educational plans. A highlight for this year was the soft launch of the Flourish Academy, a new program to empower survivors with tools and life skills so they can thrive. Based on the holistic health model, the Flourish Academy builds community and builds tools for success for our clients. All of this work is part of our On-Ramps Collaborative, an initiative that creates bridges across our community to provide more ways for survivors of trafficking to find their way forward to a hopeful future. Survivors who leave a life of exploitation face significant challenges. The On-Ramps Collaborative addresses the need for long-term solutions that give a survivor the opportunity to build a new life.
Critical to our work are the connections we have throughout the community. A growing group of alumni now engage with us as donors, connect through the CJR Alumni Network, and lead through the CJR Mentorship Program, which included 40 alumni and students. Forming these connections with our common commitment to justice made our time together especially impactful. Moving people from awareness to action is the goal of Churches Against Trafficking. And over the past year, we focused on equipping churches with tangible actions to engage in the work to end human trafficking. We supported 7 local programs with gifts at Christmas, deployed a prayer and advocacy guide in January, brought more than 50 churches together to learn and pray, and created a 13-step action plan that churches can customize to their unique congregations. We believe in creating space for difficult conversations, and Cup of Culture launched this year in partnership with the Office of Multicultural and International Student Services. 631 students, staff, faculty, and community joined us over 7 events. Together, we explored understanding racial identity, the tie between racism and prisons, God's call to welcome immigrants, and how mental health challenges and homelessness impact college students.
We lead the region's human trafficking research coordination efforts through our H2 Radar program, bringing together researchers, direct service providers, and other stakeholders to collaborate and learn from research. A silver lining in the pandemic, We found our move online for the quarterly HT Radar meetings meant more people across our region and beyond could participate. Meetings featured research that focused on the intersection of identity and circumstances that impact a person's vulnerability to being trafficked. An important role of HT Radar is resourcing our community partners with funding opportunities, research, and professional development through our HT Radar website. And this year, we significantly expanded our website, focusing on our goal to be the primary resource in the community for human trafficking research.
The pandemic meant online predators had even more opportunity to target our youth. The No More Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Curriculum program has never been more important as we work to reach our youth with tools to resist the recruitment tactics of traffickers. A founding partner of the San Diego Trafficking Prevention Collective, this year the No More program moved our drama-based presentations online. School closures impacted our ability to be in front of students, but key champions across the region joined with us to push ahead to reach as many students as possible.
At the core of our work are the students of PLNU. We intentionally include our students in all of our programs and empower them to move from their passion for justice to tangible action. Our Student Ambassador program in its 4th year is led by our student staff team, and this year 38 students participated. Roots of Giving, normally a one-night outdoor Christmas gift market, moved online this year, promoting vendors who embrace sustainable and ethical production processes. Students built a new website featuring 43 vendors and including information about ethical purchasing, our gift to small business owners and ethical brands. Roots of Giving Online was another serendipity in a challenging year. Our annual Wear Justice event, a week-long challenge to rethink consumerism through community, it was a big week for our students. With the ongoing challenges of the pandemic, we focused much of our efforts to online activity, hosting a TikTok video challenge to highlight local ethically sourced coffee and tea, sharing information about the impact of fast fashion, child labor, and the lifespan of clothing. As our students learn and lean into the complexities of the issues we face, they took the initiative to foster conversations across campus and continue to learn. Students are the spark that drive us forward.
With every challenge this past year, we've also taken the time to reflect on the many gifts and the ways that hope shows up. Our donor base has grown, our programming is flourishing, and our team is continuing to seek out partners that help us do our work better. We are grateful to the many friends and supporters who encourage and support us as we work to build a better world.
Speaking of amazing work being done in our community, I have the privilege of introducing our Hope Rising Awards. The Hope Rising Awards were created to honor community leaders from government, education, community activism, faith-based organizations, and service agencies who exemplify the collaboration and courage it takes to end human trafficking in our region. Each year, we have the privilege of honoring leaders in our community who inspire us, who impact so many lives for the better, and whose names come to mind when we look to see where hope is rising. We've asked some of our key partners and leaders from across the region to come and introduce our 5 honorees, tell us something inspiring about them, and remind us why we honor them as exemplars of hope rising.
Hello, I'm Summer Stephan, San Diego County District Attorney. It's my honor to tell you about Amy Sharp and this well-deserved award. Amy is the chair for the medical subcommittee of the Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation Advisory Council. She has worked alongside stakeholders in the fight against human trafficking. Survivors have told us of the multiple times they touched the healthcare systems, which is why including our healthcare professionals in this fight against human trafficking is vital to being able to assist our survivors leave a life of exploitation and live healthy lives. Under Amy's leadership, the Health Subcommittee has grown substantially. Representatives from over 40 local healthcare agencies participate in the subcommittee. Amy seeks out opportunities to collaborate with other community stakeholders to further anti-trafficking efforts and explore how the medical community can engage, such as the San Diego Regional Center, the Domestic Violence Council, the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program, LGBTQ community centers, and Safety for Native Women. Amy has been a sought-after presenter on this topic, including for schools and for nationwide conferences, where she educates on human trafficking and the need for trauma-informed patient care. Amy continues in her effort to educate and engage the entire medical community. She is currently working to make human trafficking a priority in the 2022 Triennial Community Needs Assessment for the Hospital Association of San Diego and Imperial Counties. On top of it, she's volunteered over 460 hours in the last year alone in her dedication to end human trafficking and is very deserving of the Hope Rising Award. We're fortunate to have her working with us to end exploitation and human trafficking. I give you Amy Sharp.
I'm grateful to be receiving this honor from the Center for Justice and Reconciliation at Point Loma Nazarene University. Thank you to my friend and colleague Jackie Davis for nominating me for this award, and I'm honored to be among the amazing champions who received the Hope Rising Award this year and in years past. I can't adequately express my gratitude to my friends, family, and colleagues who supported me in this effort. Support and encouragement help to sustain me. Recently, I was talking to colleagues about imposter syndrome. I often feel like the father who brought his son to Jesus. Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes." And the father said with tears, "Lord, I believe, hope thou might not." Together with the Lord, we can make it. And I hope that my feelings of inadequacy help me to always remain teachable, to learn from survivors, and facilitate meaningful change. We know that self-determination can only be achieved in a just society. This often reminds me of a quote by Solon, an Athenian statesman. He said, "Wrongdoing can only be avoided if those who are not wrong feel the same indignation as those who are." Solon also erased debt that had led to servitude and slavery. His reforms are credited for having laid the foundations of Athenian democracy. I'm genuinely grateful for the experts who have had the courage and humility to learn from survivors and from less than ideal outcomes. They laid the groundwork for best practices that support the dignity and autonomy of individuals who've been exploited. I'm grateful for the opportunity to focus on solutions and support clinicians and healthcare systems in addressing human trafficking.
Hello, I'm California State Senate President Pro Tempore Toni Atkins. What an honor it is for me to recognize award winner Keelan Washington. Keelan, you are a rising star in the anti-trafficking movement. What everyone should know about Keelan is that she serves as a survivor liaison with the staff of Generate Hope, which offers safe housing and reintegration support for survivors in San Diego. She also co-facilitates the Flourish Academy as a lived experience trainer, group therapy facilitator, and curriculum developer at Point Loma Nazarene University. Her calling to help others was so strong, Keelan left her corporate job to work full-time with survivors. She has pursued a selfless journey of working with survivors one-on-one. I am truly in awe of her commitment to transforming lives. Congratulations, Keelan.
Thank you, Senator Atkins, for that warm welcome. This is an extremely special moment for me and a place I wasn't sure I'd ever make it to. But then again, I work in a place where believing in people is just what we do. And for that, I'm forever grateful. I've been fortunate that on my journey, I've been surrounded by friends, family, and coworkers who see people for their potential and not their trauma. That I was more than the picture my past painted. And now, I have the incredible opportunity to give that same experience to other survivors. These women have dreams, talent, and something meaningful to offer the world if we only stop to listen. If we only believe in them the same way we would want somebody to believe in us. They didn't have a choice in their situation, but we have the choice to walk alongside them and show them the better side of humanity. To show them they are more than what they were sold for. I do what I do for them. To see women so broken by their trauma, to turn around and see God's hand in their redemption. There is no greater blessing. At the end of the day, I'm just honored to work and serve some pretty amazing people who inspire me every day to chase my dreams.
I'm San Diego City Council member Chris Cate, and I'm here to honor the profound impact of Kay Thomas with a Hope Rising Award. Kay has worked in the field of sexual violence, trafficking, and trauma for over a decade and is especially motivated to work with and on behalf of the LGBTQIA+ population, often some of the most marginalized groups when it comes to the need for housing and services. Her commitment to this work is based in the reality that human trafficking is a long-term and multifaceted issue where there will always be a need for new and innovative ways to help survivors face challenges and grow into lives defined not by what happened to them, but by who they are and what they can contribute. As an unsung hero, Kay has worked triaging crisis and emergency response hotlines, as a case manager working with individual survivors, providing victim advocacy, offering psychotherapy counseling, creating culturally sensitive staff training and development, and her expertise in research and training led Kay to work to expand the availability of trauma-informed care. Kay is a highly respected clinician and leader in our region who dedicates her work day in and day out to the success of human trafficking survivors. She continues to serve our community with generosity, compassion, and clarity, and her impact on our region's work to end human trafficking is something we are very proud to highlight. Congratulations, Kay.
Thank you to the Center for Justice and Reconciliation for this award. I'm grateful and humbled by this recognition. While I'm the one accepting this award today, it truly belongs to all those that have poured into my life daily. I would not be here today without the support of my partner and family in pursuing my education, career, and personal growth. I would not be able to do this work without the support of my incredible team at Project Life. Thank you to my team, North County Lifeline, and specifically Melissa, Stephanie, and Julia for sticking with me for these past 5 years. Lastly, I would not be the advocate I am today without the gifts of trust, time, and feedback given to me by countless survivors and lived experience experts. Thank you for helping me make my work a reflection of your resiliency and hope. To quote the author David Mitchell, our lives are not our own. We are bound to others, past and present, and by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future. I'm honored and humbled to be bound to all of you and to be birthing a better future together. Thank you.
I'm San Diego City Attorney Mara Elliott. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this year's Hope Rising event. I commend the critical work you do to prevent and raise awareness about human trafficking. We've gathered today to recognize the leaders in our region who have dedicated themselves to this noble cause. I am pleased to present a Hope Rising Award to Deputy District Attorney Fannie Yu. Fannie is a nationally recognized expert on human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation of juveniles. She has devoted her career to working with child victims of sex trafficking and does so with great compassion and empathy. We were fortunate to have Fannie start her career with us as a deputy city attorney. Fannie is now the team leader of the Human Trafficking and Internet Crimes Against Children Unit in the Juvenile Division of the District Attorney's Office. She also played a key role in developing the Resiliency is Strength and Empowerment, or RISE, collaborative court, which aims to divert juveniles away from sexual exploitation through treatment, education, and mentorship. Fannie has conducted more than 75 trainings on human trafficking and the commercial sexual exploitation of minors and serves on numerous committees throughout San Diego County. Fannie was nominated for this award by RISE Court Team founding member Tyra Miles. In her nomination, Tyra said, "Fannie is one of the smartest, hardest working women I know. She is genuine, caring, and persistent. She consistently goes above and beyond in all of her endeavors. I cannot tell you the number of youth and colleagues she has positively affected throughout her career, but I can tell you it is beyond many. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition, Fannie. Thank you for all that you have done to protect vulnerable San Diegans, especially children, from abuse and exploitation."
Thank you, City Attorney Mara Elliott, for the award, and thank you to my good friend Tyra Miles for nominating me. Good evening, Center for Justice and Reconciliation community, Dr. Bryant Davis, fellow Hope Rising awardees, special guests, and friends. Congratulations to my fellow awardees, whom I respect and admire. Thank you, Point Loma Nazarene University and CJR for honoring me with a Hope Rising Award. I'm truly blessed to walk through life with my husband of 17 years, Dan, who's a therapist, who has always taught me how to be present and meet others where they are. To my sons, thank you for your love and grace that you show me each day. I especially want to recognize my boss, San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan, a past Hope Rising awardee, for her decades-long leadership and fight against human trafficking through partnerships between law enforcement, CJR, community organizations, and dedicated individuals. Thank you, Summer, for your mentorship and support. I share this award with the incredible Juvenile Justice RISE Court team, other stakeholder collaborators, and lived experience experts who work tirelessly each day to protect, serve, and empower our youth. But as we tirelessly give to others, we must always remember to take care of ourselves. I also want to dedicate this award to our resilient youth who have taught me so much over the years. These unprecedented times have been especially difficult for our youth and survivors. Thank you, Center for Justice and Reconciliation, for leveraging research, advocacy, and innovative programs to transform our community through social change. Thank you again for this award.
My name is Kendall Lucas, and I get to serve as the Director of Alumni Relations here at PLNU. And it is such a privilege to be asked to present this Alumni in Action Hope Rising Award to Matt Robertson today. Even before Matt stepped into his current role as the Director of Regional Advancement for Agape International Ministries, known as AIM, Matt had a passion for ministry and seeing the gospel in action. Throughout his work as a missionary in Uganda and his pastoral roles in the U.S., Matt has been committed to serving underserved populations for many years. This commitment eventually led him to his current position, where he works to live out AIM's mission, to end the evil of sex trafficking and to rescue, heal, and empower survivors to be free, because every child is worth fighting for. Despite the pervasive nature of trafficking, Matt continues to focus on the transformative nature of his work. Through his focused efforts in Cambodia, he has continued to witness incredible restoration among the communities he works with. Watching cities known for international sex trafficking with brothels and massage parlors on every corner become havens with churches, schools, community centers, and employment centers, this is the why behind Matt's work. Even here at PLNU, Matt is working to restore and refresh the work of the PLNU Alumni Association as he recently began his term as Alumni Association President. It is a privilege not only to know Matt as a kind and compassionate individual, but also as a wonderful partner to his wife, Sheila, and an intentional and supportive father to his children, Kareen and Samuel. Matt, it is with deep appreciation and gratitude that I present you with this year's Alumni in Action Hope Rising Award.
Thanks, Kendall. It's such an honor to receive this award. I'm truly humbled. What I realize in reflecting on this award is that this work in the area of anti-human trafficking, it's not easy. There's a lot of stories of tragedy, of despair, of abuse, girls that are raped and tortured, held against their will. But there's so much hope. And when you can see the life of a survivor, a girl that has been tortured and abused, trafficked, when you can see her thriving and actually becoming an abolitionist, experiencing God's love, of course, but then through that thriving and becoming an abolitionist, joining the fight, it really makes it all worth it. That's what I get to be a part of at AIM. And I know my foundations, my scriptural foundations and in the calling that I have on my life, a lot of that really started at Point Loma. And so I'm honored to receive this award from Point Loma. and the Center for Justice and Reconciliation. I appreciate the work that they do fighting human trafficking. And so it's a real honor to receive this award. And thank you again. And we'll continue the fight. God bless you guys.
How inspiring to hear about the work being done every day by these change makers in our community. These recipients are both exceptional, and just like you, there's a role for everyone to play in ending the injustices in our region. I hope recognizing their work motivated you to think about how you can make a difference in your own way. Within the issue of human trafficking, there are many problems to be solved. Next, we'll explore how our newest initiative, Flourish Academy, was created as a unique solution to help survivors of trafficking thrive.
In our beautiful region, hiding in plain sight is an ugly truth. Human trafficking is thriving in the shadows. Victims of labor and sex trafficking are all around us. People exploited, manipulated, and tricked, facing impossible choices that lead them into the hands of traffickers. And in San Diego, a hub for agriculture and the military, and for conferences and conventions, more people, more men in our region means more demand. In 2014, PLNU launched the Beauty for Ashes Scholarship, the first college scholarship in the nation for survivors of human trafficking. And in 2018, our first 3 scholars graduated. We've seen the scholarship unlock opportunity and change lives, and also create space for healing and empowerment.
My name is Maya. When I finally left my trafficker, I wasn't sure how to rebuild my life. I couldn't even imagine a future. There were so many obstacles in my way. Things like not having a safe place to live, struggling with my mental health, with no friends to support me, and no way to pay my bills. These things made college seem impossible.
We recognized that our survivor scholars needed support before they arrived at the university, and while they were here. It was more than just being able to pay for college. So we asked, what if we had a plan to help survivors navigate these challenges so they can really thrive in college? We see it like taking a trip towards your future. But you need a safe way to get there, and you need a plan. If you don't have good tires, gas in the car, a working engine, a driver's license, it really doesn't matter how many on-ramps or opportunities you have in front of you, you are still stuck. And that is how the Flourish Academy was born. Designed to empower survivors with the tools they need to thrive, this 12-week program teaches life skills from the lens of holistic health. Every individual uniquely reflecting the image of God. Combining hands-on activities with teaching moments and group discussions, each week participants build resiliency and gain new skills, new ideas, expanded possibilities, restored hope.
Finally, I began to explore ideas that I once never even considered possible. What kind of job do I really want? What do I need to get to that job? How do I build an action plan to build a more stable life? What can I do each and every day to foster my independence, resiliency, and hope for the future? Who can I count on to walk with me in the journey? And how do I nurture those relationships?
Every survivor's journey is unique, and support is needed along the way. And we need more on-ramps, other avenues for education and job training that match the beautiful diversity of survivors' interests and talents. If we pool our resources, we can go farther and do more. On-Ramps envisions education and vocational training as the pathway to end exploitation. Partnering with universities, community colleges, and vocational schools, we will make this opportunity viable for more survivors. And that is the goal of the On-Ramps Collaborative. At the Center for Justice and Reconciliation, we believe in dreams, audacious hope in the resiliency within each of us, and an understanding that we can't do this alone. Together we can do more, go farther, and reach higher, and every day we see hope rising.
Flourish Academy is a unique solution to empower survivors of human trafficking.
In January 2021, we began a soft launch of our first cohort of Flourish Academy in partnership with residents of Generate Hope. Co-facilitator Keelan Washington shared why this program is a game changer. She said, "I believe the Flourish Academy is the beginning of meeting survivors where they're at by not only recognizing their trauma, but helping them understand it, with a focus on strengths rather than their struggles."
Now we have the honor of hearing from Dr. Thema Bryant Davis, who is a professor of psychology at Pepperdine University and director of the Culture and Trauma Research Lab. Dr. Thema was honored by the Institute of Violence, Abuse, and Trauma for her commitment to mentorship in the area of trauma psychology. She hosts the Homecoming Podcast, a mental health podcast on YouTube and iTunes, and has been media expert on CNN, NPR, and OWN TV, among other networks. We heard from Dr. Bryant Davis as she presented research on the role of racism and ethnic bias in human trafficking support services at an HT Radar quarterly meeting, and we immediately knew that we wanted you to hear from her today. Please join us in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Thema Bryant Davis.
I am so excited to join you on today as we celebrate Hope Rising, especially during these times of traumatic grief and loss, not only post-trauma or the aftermath of trauma, but dealing with the ongoing trauma of COVID-19, of human trafficking, of oppression in all of its various forms. But I am excited because we come individually and collectively needing hope. And the work of this organization definitely allows us to raise our hopes, to believe that more is possible than what we currently see. And as society and global world is hope, to be able to believe that there is more possible than what we currently see. And I am excited, as you are, to learn about and celebrate and even support the work of Hope Rising, especially as we look at the experience of survivors of human trafficking. Many of us, when we think historically about the realities of slavery, imagine what we would do if we were living during those times. We would either say, if we were a person of African descent, that I would have resisted and mobilized and organized against slavery. And those who are not of African descent often fantasize that they would be great abolitionists and that they would speak out and work for people's freedom and liberation. Well, I want to tell you on today that this is not a hypothetical question in this moment, that there are people who are living, who are enslaved, not just internationally or globally, but also locally. And each of us must respond and think about, what will we do during these times? What will we tell our children, our grandchildren, generations to come about what we did to eradicate, to disrupt, to uproot, to dismantle human trafficking, and not only to stop human trafficking, but what we did for the restoration of people in the aftermath. You see, the important part of this organization is that it is not only committed to the escape and the rescue process, but recognizing in the aftermath of trauma, real dedication is needed for the wholeness, the wellness, the holistic care of those who have been trafficked. And so whether people were trafficked for labor, whether they were trafficked as a result of sex and consumerism, we want to recognize the worth and the value of each individual person, that each of us are made in the likeness and the image of God. We are sacred beings, sacred bodies, sacred breath. And so once we get to the point of rescue and also to the point of prevention so that more people are not trafficked, we also know that it is important to equip and rebuild so people can have full and fulfilling lives. As a clinical psychologist and a minister, I am very much aware that often people want to skip over the pain, skip over the wound, skip over the tragedy, and jump to the triumph, that people often want to just put it behind them. But the reality is, until we can face the terror, face the trauma, face the wound, then it will often continue to consume us and to block us. And so the work that this organization is doing is to be celebrated. And I know that many of you have been partners with them, but then there are also those who are visitors on today who are new to this important work. And so I want to tell you why the Flourish Academy is so important, because it sees the full potential of people who have been traumatized by human trafficking, by exploitation, by oppression, and by injustice, because all of these factors are inextricably linked. And so in the aftermath, and shall I say also living with the ongoing reality of stigma, stereotype, and discrimination that people face who have dealt with human trafficking, who are survivors of human trafficking, we know that there is a need for the psychological wellness, spaces and places where people are supported, where they can breathe, where they can rewrite their own narratives. Many times as a trauma survivor, we are put in positions where our voice, opinions, and needs are silenced. And often the perpetrator's voice is heard. And then when there is a rescue effort, those who are the experts are considered the voices that people need to listen to. But I am so glad in Hope Rising, there is a centrality of the survivor's voice, recognizing that survivors hold wisdom, survivors hold knowledge, survivors hold gifts. And so integrated throughout the work of Hope Rising is a reminder to each of us to not say, I will be the voice of the voiceless, but for us to pass the mic and give space for people to tell their own stories, to define themselves, and to name themselves. So not only are we committed to holistic wellness, we are committed to the voices, the centralizing of voices of survivors, and we are mindful of the value of education, which is why the scholarships that this work supports is so important. It is one thing to tell people you are liberated now. You are freed now. Emancipation has come now. But we have to raise the question that was asked in the aftermath of the Emancipation Proclamation, free to do what? And so it is not only free from something, free from human trafficking, but in order to be free to live full lives, people need access to the training and the opportunities and the skills and the knowledge to make that happen, to create a new future. And so education and employment training, jobs training and jobs placement is an important part of these efforts. We recognize that while education and employment training are important, so also are social support. When we do our psychological research, we understand that one of the big predictors of people being able to live full lives is the response of the community. Are they ostracized? Are they isolated? Or are they valued, integrated? Do they have a sense of belonging? Belonging on our campuses, belonging in our communities, belonging in our faith-based organizations, and belonging in the world. And a part of what gives that sense of belonging is when people pour into you, when people invest in the fullness, not only of healing your past, but readying you for your future. And the way we ready people for their future is not just with warm wishes, but it is by equipping people with resources. And I am excited about the possibility of us working together collaboratively, because when we collaborate, we can achieve and attain much more than we can as individuals. And so some people avoid these conversations around trauma, around human trafficking, because the thought is it will just be depressing or overwhelming. The thought is that we are powerless or hopeless. But the truth is, we recognize with Hope Rising that we do have the capacity to create sustainable change in people's lives, in communities, and across the nation. And I hope that you will join in these efforts in not only feeling like I have a value that people should experience liberation, but that value for liberation and for human rights needs to then translate into action. And so there is an African proverb that says, when you pray, move your feet. When you pray, move your feet. And so you might have a prayer or a hope that human trafficking will stop. But then we've got to move our feet and have some action behind those hopes, behind those words. And so there are multiple ways that each of us can contribute to the fight against human trafficking. We can contribute with our resources. We can contribute with our time. We can contribute with our gifts, skills, and knowledge. We can contribute by being listening ears, advocates, and supporters. We can also contribute with our voting, that when policies are brought forward or politicians are running for office, for us to be mindful of supporting those people and policies that are going to make serious efforts as it relates to dismantling human trafficking. And then once we do the voting, our work doesn't end, because we have to then monitor. Many people will make us promises on this side of an election, but on the other side, we have to be mindful to see what are the policies that are in place locally. What is the legislation that is in place, and how is it being enacted? Because it is not enough to say, yes, we are for something, or resources should be allocated for something, but then the follow through to say, are people doing what they said they were going to do? I'm excited because not only is this work holistic, mind, body, heart, spirit, community, but it also recognizes the importance of culture, that racial and ethnically marginalized people are at increased risk for human trafficking domestically. And those who are domestic internationally, we see a gap in how much even people will pay for a human being based on their race and ethnicity. And so racism actually shows up in the world of human trafficking. And one of the things we recognize, that we want to recognize, is that race is more than racial oppression, that culture is more than cultural oppression, but culture is also a resource. And so a part of people's healing efforts have to also integrate an awareness of the cultural values, resources, food, music, dance, artistry, of people of diverse backgrounds, and to recognize that as an integral part of respectful rehabilitation, restoration processes. And so this makes it culturally rich and culturally congruent. I am really emphasizing the importance of beauty for ashes as a concept, and in terms of the scholars, to know that the pain of human trafficking is real, but it is not the end of the story. I like to say to my clients, trauma affects us, but it doesn't define us. Human trafficking will have an impact on people's lives, but it does not have to have the final say. As we think about the value and importance of this season, as a person of African descent, I am reminded of Juneteenth and the importance of recognizing when people actually experience liberation. With Juneteenth, there was a law that was placed on the books, but it had not reached all of the people's lives who were actually enslaved. And so as we consider the work of Hope Rising, as we consider the work of Hope Rising, we want to be mindful not only about what a university says it's for, an organization says it's for, but what are the ways that we live it out, and is it reaching the people? So all of our services will need to continue to be evaluated by the survivors themselves so that they can tell us, what was helpful and what wasn't helpful, what is working and what needs to change. And we approach this work with a humility that we are often and constantly open to learning, to transforming, so that we can do it better. So for those of you who are already engaged, I say thank you for the work that you have done. For those who are interested in being engaged, I say welcome to this fight and this struggle for freedom, for liberation, and for flourishing. I want you to know this is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And so we need not only your enthusiasm for today, but your sustained commitment to doing this work, to spreading the word about what is needed, about the impact of human trafficking and the need for all people to be a part of the solution and not just the problem. For us to be a part of recognizing that we can transform our world, one person, one survivor, one campus, one community at a time. I know that it can feel big, but hope is bigger. I know that human trafficking is big, but love is bigger. I know that violation is big, but justice is bigger. And so I thank you for being willing to show up today, and let today be a continuation of our commitment to not only lift the hope in ourselves, but in each other. As Dr. Maya Angelou wrote, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies, but still I rise." I'm so glad on today that we're rising. Thank you so much.
I am not too young to understand that breathing shouldn't feel like the clouds weighed down.
I am not too young to understand that love is not bruised hips and his lips, neon signs declaring price, rolling of dice, pimped out and turned out.
I am not too young to understand that no one should know all the things that I know.
I am 14. It happened years ago, but it was yesterday.
You were walking down the street before the stranger broke your life in two.
No one looks at your eyes. No one wants to, because if they did, they'd see a little girl who is now a woman, bought and sold, a saleable collection of parts, breaking to give out smaller and smaller pieces of herself.
Your words are gone, beaten back by the terror,
by the blows,
by the shame.
When he says, "I am one of the nice guys," who is he comparing himself to?
Men ask me, are you a player or a pimp?
Yes, I've been played.
Yes, I've been pimped. By you and others like you.
Who see me as nothing more than a hypersexual footnote to their existence.
I have ceased to exist. I am nowhere to be found. Salivating young men's mouths rot the roots of femininity. Did you know he asks me to play out his fetish? A China baby doll, he says, then shatters the protean pieces of a culture he cannot even distinguish.
If we erased it, this place wouldn't be so sick.
They say you're asking for it. All I ask is for it to quit.
Show me a man who has never seen a body as an object to own, a mind as a barrier to break.
Show me a man who doesn't see Asian or Latinx or Black or Middle Eastern and think of our mouths as spices to taste.
Our bodies are not a trip down the ethnic aisle at the grocery store. You cannot sample us.
It's wasted, this placement, this place men placed women when they unnamed us.
Show me a man who understands it's personal.
I can tell there's a little fight in you left. Behind those downcast eyes, I see fire. You're gonna burn it all down and start fresh.
What would happen if that no became knowing your worth?
Knowing that the only body you own is your own.
Knowing that truths need to be spoken. Truths of now and truths of 2 years lingering in your mind before words can explain.
What would happen if hands were held not to hide fists, but held simply to hold another? If the human body unharmed was not a miracle. If the human body unharmed was not a miracle.
What would happen if I told him he's only at the top of the chain because of my pain, and because I've learned to stand on uneven ground, he's coming down.
And I imagine the captain of the ship a girl, not a man.
He can walk beside her, and she can walk beside him.
She can take the sidewalk to a bus stop without the cat calls, no fat claws, grappling Barbie dolls, to trap them in traveling walls or force them into bathroom stalls.
Neck released, fly free, wings carry me through the breeze and the trees to breathe. I see possibility.
Live without fear after countless years. Hardness fades, in her place a softer space. A whole new me.
Birdsong roused me this morning, harmonizing my dreams with the daylight. I lay learning to come alive. And there is joy.
And joy.
And joy.
Hi, my name is Bridget, and this is my dad, my biggest supporter. When I was 16, as I searched for what the future had in store, I found myself being called to the anti-trafficking movement. I started a community group and school club focused on human trafficking awareness and prevention. A main part of my work was educating local high schools of the realities of human trafficking in San Diego County.
Hi, I'm Todd, Bridget's dad. I can remember so vividly when Bridget came to her mom and I and told us about her plans to be involved in the field of anti-sex trafficking, specifically helping women get out of or avoid trafficking altogether. I remember the feeling of my heart going from my chest to my stomach that my innocent daughter was about to be exposed to something so horrible. I struggled with this for about a week until I found myself talking with a customer of mine who out of the blue opened up to me to share about her own family experience of her daughter being trafficked, lured off the internet by a young man. Starting with the dating relationship, he introduced her to drugs, continually grooming her, until he finally trafficked her to others. I was in disbelief. This was a customer I could have never imagined being impacted by sex trafficking. This was a very affluent family, and their daughter grew up in a life of privilege. Yet she was still unwittingly caught up in something so terrible. My customer went on to tell me how they spent over $1 million trying to recover her. They did eventually get her out, but the damage was done. The family was destroyed, and they're still reeling from this today. Once I heard her story, I knew it was God's plan for Bridget, and I knew it was my responsibility to fully support her.
As I got more involved and really leaned into where I was being called, I remember my dad asking me, "Are you sure you want this to be your passion?" But after learning about the realities of the sex trade and the injustice that takes place in my neighborhood, I knew there was no going back. The trajectory of my life had changed. Soon after, it was time for me to decide where I wanted to go to college. I applied to schools all over the West Coast. I applied to Point Loma Nazarene University just as a backup because it felt so close to home. When the acceptance letters came, I wanted to choose anywhere but Point Loma. However, with my anti-trafficking involvement, I learned about the Center for Justice and Reconciliation, and I knew that if I wanted to spend my life serving this cause, Point Loma was the best place for that. I had to be on the forefront of the effort. With the CJR's cutting-edge research in 2016, the Beauty for Ashes Scholarship, and the No More Prevention curriculum, this is where I had to be. Today, after spending 4 years working with the CJR, co-writing the Flourish Academy curriculum, and having been given so many opportunities to make an impact in this cause, I know that I made the right decision.
Through the years, I've watched Bridget thrive through her work with the CJR. I'm so proud of all she's done, but I also know there's so much more to do. At my business in Oceanside, we've decided to support CJR's Flourish Academy initiative through donating and raising funds for the CJR. At the live event auctions I host, I always bring up Bridget's story and the work she's doing at the CJR. Although this usually brings some tears when I begin talking about it. My customers understand the importance of her work and the work the CJR is doing, and they also give their support financially.
The Center for Justice and Reconciliation is an organization that I truly support and believe in. I've experienced firsthand how all of our initiatives and programs are survivor-led and focus on empowering survivors to reach their own success. We believe that every person is created in the image of God and is worthy of the love and opportunity to thrive. One of our programs that is specifically near and dear to my heart is the Flourish Academy, our 12-week program for survivors in San Diego County that are within their first year out of the life of exploitation. This past year, I was able to co-write the curriculum for the Flourish Academy. Centered on providing holistic healing for our participants, I worked alongside Jessica Kim to ensure that our program is directly geared toward our population of survivors. We used evidence-based practices, held focus groups, and received feedback and input from people who have experienced trafficking. This program was created by survivors, not just with their input along the way, but with a seat at the table driving our decisions and direction, just like all of the other CJR initiatives. That is why the Center for Justice and Reconciliation is an organization that I truly support and believe in.
The dollars you donate this evening will go directly to the CJR's programs. And if you help the CJR reach their goal today, every dollar will be doubled by a generous sponsor that is matching up to $100,000. Please help the CJR reach their goal of $200,000 to fund their most urgent priorities. $47,000 of the funds raised will support 4 students studying under the Beauty for Ashes Scholarship during the 2021 academic year. This is such a blessing for the survivor students. $135,000 will fully launch the Flourish Academy with continuous cohorts throughout the year. $18,000 will equip 1,000 students with anti-trafficking awareness curriculum through the No More program. The No More program will have such an impact on educating young people about the warning signs and will help prevent tragic stories like the one that happened to my customer's family.
Here's how we can work together to reach our goal. Text GIVE100 to 76278 to make a $100 donation, or replace 100 with the amount that you would like to give. You can also support our work throughout the year by becoming a monthly donor at pointloma.edu/CJR giving. We hope that you will be part of the solution by making these services possible.
There's a world at war, caught in suffering, silent casualties. Oh God, grant us peace in these sleepless nights. I can hardly breathe despite brutality. I know that we'll be free. I know that we'll be free. So let the light keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to sing. We'll all be free. In these desperate times, love will hold us here. Love will join our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our head down to wash their feet when we see our brother. Oh, we'll all be free. Oh yes, we'll all be free. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see. We'll all be free. father, tell your mother, tell yourself, tell everybody, we'll all be free. Tell the lovers, tell the haters, tell the prisoners, tell the jailers, tell the world, tell everybody, we'll all be free. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your father, tell your mother, tell yourself, tell everybody, we'll all be free. Tell the lovers, tell the haters, tell the prisoners, tell the jailers, tell the world, tell everybody, we'll all be free.
This event wouldn't be possible without the underwriting help of our amazing sponsors. We would like to recognize our 2021 Hope Rising sponsors. Presenting sponsor, Aprium Advisors, the Larry and Kathy Willett family, Sodexo, Barry and Karen McGuire, Mission Church of the Nazarene, Brigantine Family of Restaurants, Dorothea Lobb. One of my favorite things about Hope Rising each year is that it draws people from all over our community. We believe that every person in this virtual gathering space is a very important person. Some of you are learning for the first time about the reality of trafficking and injustice in our region. Some of you have survived the exploitation. Many of you are working to end it. Our public servants are a key part of this work. From championing legislation to pursuing funding for our region, to investigating and prosecuting buyers and traffickers, to educating our kids, the huge group of public servants here today speaks volumes about our region's commitment to this vital work. It is an important part of what will help us to continue to see hope rising. We would like to acknowledge the following public servants sharing their responses to the question, what brings you hope?
Hello, I'm Chief David Nislide of the San Diego Police Department. And what gives me hope is the men and women of this department willing to go out every single day and do their very best to provide great public service. That's what truly inspires me and gives me hope.
Hi everybody, Councilmember Stephen Whitburn here. What gives me hope is seeing people step up to help others in need. Organizations like yours that do such important work every day to better our communities.
I am hopeful because I see our work raising awareness. And because of that awareness, it leads to action. And because of that action, I see hope rising.
Hello, everyone. I'm Councilmember Monica Montgomery Stepp. What gives me hope is my faith in God. My faith tells me that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So although I can't see it, I still have hope in it. And I thank God for that.
Hi, this is Kelly Martinez. And what gives me hope is the level of awareness surrounding human trafficking in San Diego and everyone's efforts to save victims and hold offenders accountable. That's what gives me hope.
What gives me hope is seeing women like Keelan find their incredible voices and inspire others to overcome trauma. This is what truly builds a better San Diego and a stronger community.
What gives me hope is that years ago when we started this fight against human trafficking, it was something that the community didn't understand. And the question that we got is, what is human trafficking? What gives me hope today is the question from the community is, what can I do to end human trafficking?
It gives me hope that despite the challenges brought on by the pandemic, those of us who fight every day to protect victims of domestic violence and human trafficking pulled together to ensure that services were available to anyone who needs them.
Hi, I'm San Diego Councilmember Joe Legato, and the increased awareness and activism in stopping human trafficking by students like those involved in the Center for Justice and Reconciliation gives me hope.
What gives me hope are our young people. They are brilliant, creative, socially conscious. I am inspired every day when I am in classrooms, and I know that our future is bright because of them.
The promise of our next generation and my kids and what the world will become with them.
I can definitely say what gives me hope is knowing that so many different organizations exist that offer free services to survivors. It does give them hope for a brighter future, and that's what Hope Rising is all about.
2 words give me hope: compassion and empathy. This I have experienced firsthand from people who knew nothing about me, yet they showed me compassion and empathy.
This is Armand King with Paving Great Futures, and what gives me hope is watching people that once upon a time had no hope now have the most hope. Hope for their lives, hope for their community, hope for the embetterment of the other people around them. That's what gives me hope, watching lives transform right in front of my eyes.
I am truly inspired by those in our community who advocate every day for equity, social, and environmental justice. Their hard work is crucial in breaking down barriers so that we can build healthier and stronger communities. And that is what gives me hope every day.
It was an honor to be a part of this wonderful event, and I leave you this evening as the sun sets over the Pacific Ocean. Stay connected with what the CJR is doing by following us on social media and signing up for our monthly newsletters. It is fitting to close this evening's event remembering our Hope Rising Award recipients: Amy Sharp, Fannie Yu, Kay Thomas, Keelan Washington, and Matt Robertson, and our inspiring speaker, Dr. Thema Bryant Davis. Our gratitude to them for who they are. What they do is priceless. Our gratitude to you, your interest, your involvement, and your investment to help us eradicate this critical social ill is enduring. Good night, and God bless you.
Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I said, it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I said, it's alright. Little darling, the smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I said, it's alright. Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I said, it's alright. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I said, it's alright. Letting go of every single dream I run down at your feet. Every moment of my wandering never changes what you see. I've tried to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest. Mighty warrior, king of the fight. No matter what I face, you're by my side. When you don't move the mountain, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. Truth is, you know what tomorrow brings. There's not a day ahead you have not seen. So in all things be my life and breath. I want what you want, Lord, and nothing less. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. You are my strength and comfort. You are my steady hand. You are my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Your ways are always higher. Your plans are always good. There's not a place where I'll go you've not already stood. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you are my living hope. You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we can walk it out and move mountains. We can walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. But for you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. Bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. But for you, for you, for you. together. Oh, we will rise, oh, we will rise, oh, we will rise. Oh, we will rise. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, high like the waves. We'll rise up, in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. But for you,